Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to GC Burkhead Career Day. Ms. Parrott, our Family Resource Coordinator, Ms. Riney, our Guidance Counselor, put together several volunteers from the community, local businesses, and community members to come and talk to our kids about various professions. And they've had a lot of great questions and a lot of great answers, and we appreciate all their time.
So what is my job title? My job title is the owner. I'm an owner-operator, which means I own the company, but I also get in the truck and I work every day too alongside nephew here. So he gets busy, I jump in the truck, help him. He helps me if I need it. What are the requirements and skills needed for your job? So you got to go through a training process for everywhere you go. Normally it's 2 weeks to a month long, and you just got to go out every day riding with another driver that's been trained. And you got to learn how to do everything. Repossessions, we do repo work. You got to learn how to work accidents, recovery work. If a vehicle's in a ditch, stuck in the ditch, in the mud, you got to learn how to rig it and everything to go out and get it out without causing more damage to the customer's vehicle.
Be a law enforcement officer, I started applying, I was about 21 years old. When I applied, when they started testing, they gave like a written test. And it's got like math on it, reading, English, a lot of stuff that you guys do here, okay? We have to take a test, and they take your top high scores, okay? And they start putting you through the hiring process. If you pass that, they'll call you back, and you take a physical training test, which involves running, push-ups, set-ups. You got to do a couple of lifts, weights. If you pass those tests, then they'll send you on to do a background on you, make sure that you got a good background, you haven't been in no major big trouble, that you're going to be a good officer for their department, okay? If they decide to hire you, they send us to the academy. When I went through, it was 16 weeks long. So I spent 16 weeks in the academy. While in the academy, I had to go through different training as far as we done driving training. We had to learn how to drive a police car safely, right? That's important for us to do when you go to emergency calls. Also, had to learn laws, how to apply laws. As far as out here, when somebody goes out here and commits a crime or for traffic, we have to know what we're doing out here, right? In order to do our job. So that's important to do. Also, we done firearms training, which they teach us about guns and shooting guns. Responding to calls for service, we have to do more physical training there, a lot of running. They make us do that a few times a week, so make sure that we're in shape for the job. So it's very important to have all that. Once we graduate training and we become a certified police officer, they send us back to our police department, and we ride with somebody for about 15 weeks, and we ride with different people. So we basically ride on different shifts, learning what kind of work they do, how to be a police officer, how to apply our job, everything we learned in police school and police training. We go out here on the street and do that, and they watch us and observe us, see if we know what we're doing, make sure we can do our job before we go on our own. So that's kind of how the whole process goes. As far as salary goes, you're looking at starting around about $43,000, $45,000 a year. Being a regular patrolman, you can probably get up to around 60 in the 60s. Sometimes that's a lot of overtime working. Depending on what rank you are at the police department, if you're a supervisor like a sergeant, a lieutenant, maybe a deputy chief or a chief, you can make bigger pay. You're on a bigger pay scale, right? So you can work your way up depending on how long you're there. So detectives, they get paid a lot because they get a lot of overtime. They get called out a lot on cases. So they make a lot of extra money a lot of times just from a lot of overtime. So, all right. I think I've covered everything on that. Do y'all have any, let me talk about my tools and my belt real quick. So, I wear a belt. Y'all see, this is my uniform I wear every day. On my belt, okay, of course I got a school radio. I got a police radio. This is called a body cam, okay? Body cam shows what I'm doing, what's going on around me as well. Okay, that's for our protection as well as other people's. This right here is my gun, okay? Not a toy, right? They're dangerous. Those are only for protection only. This right here is a baton. It's also another form of line of protection that we use. Okay? Right here, I've got pockets. They contain magazines that I have my bullets in for my gun, extra bullets. So again, that's for protection only. We have to have that. Taser, also for protection only. And then I have my handcuffs back here. And sometimes, when we make arrests, our policy and procedure is we have to handcuff somebody. That's for their safety and our safety. That's why we have to do that.
we do everything that you do at home, we do at the fire station. Eat, sleep, all that stuff, all right? So we're there for 24 hours. Instead, we go home for 48. So we're away from our families for 1/3 of the year, all right? So that's 4 months out of the year that we are not at home with our families, that we come to work. All right, so we respond to all kinds of stuff. Of course, fires. We go to medical calls. We go to car wrecks. We go technical rescue. So we have somebody stuck in the water. We do water rescues, rope rescue, somebody stuck in a trench or in a hole. We do trench rescue, confined space rescue, and we also respond to hazardous materials situations that we might encounter, whether that's transportation or industrial. So that's some of the stuff that we respond to. We'll talk a little, we'll get to questions. Some of the requirements to be a firefighter here with the Elizabethtown Fire Department is you need to be 18 years old. Who's 18 yet? Anybody? No. What are y'all about, 11, 10, 11? Right around that there? 12? Okay. All right, so you got to be 18 years old. You got to graduate high school. We'll get you GED. All right. You got to pass a background check, medical screening. Then you have to take a written test, as similar to a civil service or an ASVAB test. We have a physical agility test that you have to take. Then you have to do an interview, and then a mechanical aptitude test. And that's just to make sure that you're fit to do the job as a firefighter. After that, we'll train you. All right, that's a minimum standard to get hired. Once you get hired, we're a hazardous duty retirement, so we work 25 years is our retirement now. Some of the older guys, they only got to work 20 years, but now we work 25 years. Yeah, that guy right there. So you got to work 25 years, and then you retire. Some of the stuff we got here, this is what we call our bunker gear, also known as turnout gear. So we'll kind of go over the turnout gear real quick. So we got our boots, which have a metal plate in the bottom of them. That's to keep us, if we're walking around in a fire or something like that, we don't want nails going through our feet. So it's got a metal plate in the bottom. You got steel toes, keep us from crushing our toes. And then they're wrapped in leather, and that protects us from the fire and heat. We got our bunker pants. It's got suspenders. Show them the coat there. So after that, we got our coat. If you look at the coat, it's covered in reflective material. All right. So at nighttime, it's very hard to see us. All right, especially when there's smoke and fire and stuff like that. So the coat's covered in reflective material. It's got our little nameplate at the bottom there. Because once we put all this gear on, we all kind of look the same. All right. So we need to be able to tell each other apart. So it's got our name on them. Tells us which fire department we're with. On our air packs, even has a little identifier right here, and that tells us what truck we're on. So that way, when we have our back turned to people, they can look and say, "Hey, I know which fire truck that guy's from, and who's on that truck." All right. So we got our hood here. So that hood, we put it around us. Sometimes we use them in the wintertime just to keep our ears warm. All right, sometimes it gets cold out there on accidents and stuff like that, but that is primarily used to protect our face, our ears, and our neck from fire and heat. We got our mask here that hooks up to our SCBA, which is our air pack. All right. A lot of people think that air bottle has 100% oxygen in it. It does not. It has the same air we breathe. All right, so that bottle contains about 21% oxygen. All right, it's the same air. We basically take the air that's out here and we compress it. And, we have a compressor, and then we fill the bottle up, and that gives us about 45 minutes worth of air. All right. You want to talk about the truck real quick?
I'd love to. This is my truck. So this truck has tools, and pretty much the weirdest thing is that nothing in this box has anything to do with putting out fire. Lieutenant said stuff about how we do other rescues and other things that we do, like getting cats out of the trees and stuff like that. But that's what this box is for. We have axes, we have shovels, we have fans, we have chainsaws. Back here we have our extrication stuff to get you out of a car if your door won't open. This stuff's actually really cool. They call it the jaws of life. We call them spreaders and cutters. If you're like stuck in a car or whatever, we can cut everything away from you and get you out, right? It's kind of like playing Jenga. We just take off pieces until you come out. It's no big deal. What do you think we have fans for? Anybody got a question on that one or an answer? What do you think?
For smoke.
For smoke, absolutely right. We can get the fan. We take those fans. We got a smoked up building. We can't see anything. We got, like Lieutenant said, 75 pounds of stuff on us. We want to be in there as least as we can in a safe environment. Y'all been around a campfire? Like the smoke gets in your nose, you smell it for days. It's awful. You cough. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid. We can get the smoke out. Visibility is better, and our survival rate for whoever we're going in for is better. What we got saws for? What do you think, Garrett?
To cut down boards.
Cut down what?
Maybe to get to boards.
Absolutely, we can use it for anything we want to, right? It's a chainsaw, it's mine. I can cut doors, I can cut limbs, I can cut roofs. I can try to cut metal with it, but it won't work for very long, but I can. But we have other tools for that. Like I said, the ladder goes up so high, the highest building in Hardin County. Anybody? Anybody? What is the tallest building in Hardin County? Take a guess. The hospital, right? This truck will reach the top of the hospital, which is the tallest building in Hardin County at this time. I think we're growing. We might get taller, and then we'll have to do something different. So this truck has all kinds of capabilities and does all kinds of more functions instead of just flowing massive amounts of water onto a fire. What you got?
Are y'all constantly busy, racing?
Oh no, we only run about 1,600 calls a year. That's divided between three shifts. No, we went over 2,000 last year. About 2,000 calls a year divided between 4 trucks on 3 different days. So quick math on it is we run about 4 calls a day, but we never know if those 4 calls are going to come at once, or if they're going to be 4-hour calls, or if they're going to be 15-minute calls. So some days we don't sleep. Some days we play a lot of cards or Xbox or whatever we need to do.
I work for Altec, and I've been with Altec for about 25 years. And Altec is the company that builds this actual piece of equipment that allows workers to go up in the air and work on utility lines. Okay, like I said, I've been with Altec 25 years. I've done a little bit of everything in the factory. Currently, I work in the service department. But Altec makes many different kinds of these units, and we service several different industries. So we actually build these for utility companies. We build these for tree companies. We build these for sign companies. So, the fast food signs that are way up in the air, a lot of those people use our equipment to put those signs up in the air. Tree companies like Asplund and Davy Tree and places like that, they're the ones that come out and trim the trees. They use these to trim trees. And then obviously the utility workers like Nolin and Kentucky Utilities, they use these to go up and work on the power lines. But there's a factory here in Elizabethtown that builds these, and Altec. And this particular unit is an AT37G. The AT stands for Altec, and then the 37 stands for how high it goes. It goes 37 feet in the air. And then the G stands for it has a glass boom, a fiberglass boom right here. And that fiberglass boom makes it insulated so that when workers are up there working on the power lines, they don't have a path to ground where they can have electricity travel through them. So it makes them safe to work on electric lines. Well, a little bit about Altec. We employ a lot of different people, mainly engineers. So if you're thinking about engineering, Altec's a good company to work for. We use mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, chemical engineers, manufacturing engineers. So there's all different kinds of engineers that work at Altec. Along with the salespeople and management, and then vocational, we use a lot of welders. As you can see, we weld all the parts together to make this unit. Machinists, and then assemblers. So, and then we also have, the factory workers that do a lot of the, moving materials around with forklifts and things like that, materials handlers. So a lot of different opportunities in the Altec factory. Working in the Altec factory and doing service to these units is not a particularly dangerous job. We have a lot of safety protocols that we follow, and it's pretty safe work. Right. Well, some of the equipment that we use whenever you're operating one of these, I brought with me. You know, there are some equipment that we use in the factory that I didn't bring. We do want to wear steel-toe shoes in case we drop something on our feet. We have steel-toe boots on. Also safety glasses, which I have on here, in case we're working with something we don't want anything to get projected in our eye. And then when you're operating this, we use a hard hat so that when you go up, if anything's above your head and you bump your head, you won't hurt your head. Yes?
Is there like a weight limit for that?
Yes. Each model of unit has its own weight limit. This one has a 350-pound capacity. Now that includes the person and any of the tools they take up with them. We also use this harness here to keep you from falling out. So we strap this harness to us, buckle it around, and then we buckle it to the boom so that if in some reason it happened that you were to fall out of the bucket, that harness would catch you and you wouldn't fall to the ground.
Do you know the worst type of cancer that you could have in your body?
So there's a lot of different kinds. Cancer of your pancreas. So your pancreas kind of helps regulate different parts of your things that go on in your body. Pancreas is one of the worst ones. Kidneys, not as bad as they used to be. Kidney cancer is really bad. Lung cancer is bad. Brain cancer, there's certain kind of brain cancers that are really, really harmful. There's thousands of different kinds of cancers.
What's the hardest cancer treatment you've done throughout your career?
So I just finished up a thing to where it's called stereotactic surgery. It's literally surgery with radiation. It was like the ruler thing I was showing you guys, the little tiny circle. You get like one shot and you can't miss. So that's how important. It's very, the energy they're using is very, very high. So you want to be exact as you can. So that's the hardest thing I've ever done so far.
One of the ways in the Army that we like to distinguish ourselves or separate who we are is we each have a rank. So you might have heard ranks like sergeant, sergeant major, lieutenant, captain, major, general. So lots of different ranks. So I'm what's called a major. If for some reason somebody does not know who I am, and they can't say major because they don't know my rank, they can look at my uniform. So this is what I like to wear every day. Unfortunately, I can't wear it because I had surgery on my foot, so it's a little hard to get on right now. But this is what I would wear on a daily basis when I go to work at 5th Corps. So that's 5th Corps right there. So by this gold leaf right here, that tells everybody that I'm a major. This right here tells that I'm in the U.S. Army. Sometimes the Air Force will wear similar uniforms, and it'll say U.S. Air Force. If they don't know my name, there it is for them, right there in my uniform. Pretty easy, huh? If they can't see my uniform, there's my name on my hat, there's my rank on the front. So pretty easy, huh? I also wear boots every day, so it's pretty easy to get dressed. I never have to decide what I'm wearing. I decided to join the Army. I graduated from high school in California and decided I was going to go to college. I wanted to study science, so I went to a school called St. Mary's College of California near San Francisco. And I was getting ready to graduate, and I wasn't sure quite what I wanted to do. I knew I studied biology, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, where I wanted to study more. So I thought, I'm going to join the Army because I want to serve my country, and this will give me a little time and experience to be able to figure out what I want to do with my life and my career. So I joined the Army, and I keep doing that. And while I was in the Army, I met Mackenzie's dad. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the different types of jobs that are in the Army. There's lots of different jobs. We're not always like what you probably see in the movies where people carry the big weights on their back and they're running and shooting and everything. There's lots of really interesting jobs. And the one thing about the Army too is you can do a job for a while, and if you decide you don't want to do that job anymore, you can do a different job. You can apply to do a different job. So the first here I've got pictures of Mackenzie's dad. So this is a long time ago when he was in Iraq. The Army's hard, but sometimes we like to have fun too. So you can see him down here with the camels, because you got to get pictures of camels, right? If you see camels, it's pretty cool. Here he is sitting in a helicopter, because why not go for a helicopter ride when you can? Here he is all dressed up. There's another helicopter. And here he is coming home from Afghanistan. I'll show you a picture in a minute where he first met Mackenzie when she was only 8 weeks old. So he wasn't there when she was born. He came home from Afghanistan about 8 weeks later when he met her. And there we are having fun in the middle of a snowstorm in Germany. So we like to have lots of fun too. We're pretty silly people sometimes. Pretty serious, but silly, pretty silly too. So wear different uniforms. This is a uniform I had a long time ago. I'm on my 3rd uniform in the Army. I don't have a picture of my very first one, but this was the second one we wore. It was kind of a gray. Army decided to change our uniform. And here we also, sometimes when we go out for training, we wear a lot we call body armor. So that body armor can be pretty heavy, has lots of pouches. I would say probably in those pouches we probably have some snacks, we have some of our ammunition, we have a bunch of different things that we like to carry with us because nobody in the Army ever goes without their snacks somewhere. You always carry your snacks. It's probably just like your mom's always carrying snacks in her purse somewhere for you. My first job in the Army was called what we call a CBURN officer, a chemical officer. So it meant that I put on the big masks, meant I put on like a scuba tank on my back and a big suit. You know, the big trucks you see out on the roads, big hazmat tankers. If something like that were to spill, I'd be the kind of person they would call to help clean it up. That was my job. These girls here, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about each of them. This one here, she was a physician assistant, so a doctor. This one here, she's a plastic surgeon in the Army. So if somebody in the Army was to get hurt, burned, needed some type of really specialized surgery, she's the one they would call. This girl here, she's what we call an intelligence officer, military intelligence. So imagine your teacher gives you a big book, lots of information, right? And he wants you to read all of it, but he's only going to give you a test with 10 questions. Her job is to figure out all this information and figure out what that important information is so that she can brief our commander on it, so that he doesn't have to read all that information. They don't have time. She and he don't have a lot of that time. Her job is what we call a signals officer. Her job was really important because in the military, we use a lot of emails, we use our computers. So I work with a lot of people in Poland. So right now it's 9 o'clock at night. They're not awake. So if I need them to do something, I'll send them an email. So tomorrow morning when they come in, they can check the email, work on what I need done, and they can send it back to me so I can continue working on it. I've also worked with people in Korea. It's already the next day in Korea. So a lot of times email is the fastest way to be able to talk to each other and get things done in the Army. But her job also was about radios. So we talked about helicopters and showed a couple pictures of helicopters. Radios are extremely important because helicopters have to be able to talk to each other, just like airplanes have to be able to talk to each other. But if you're working on the ground, you want to know what's happening above you, right? So how do you have to be able to talk to that helicopter too. So her job is to make sure those radios are working up and down and sideways and all over the place so that we can all talk to each other. Because if we can't communicate with each other, it's really hard to understand what's going on, right? It can be really dangerous. A couple of the other cool things. So that's Mackenzie's dad when he first met her. Here's a couple other people I'd like to introduce you to. So right here is Mackenzie's uncle. He was what we call an infantryman. So when he came in the military, he would carry a lot of heavy weight on his back and he'd move on the ground. His job was to walk. And he would check streets and he would go street by street. I didn't like that kind of job. That's why I didn't do that job. Her other uncle, he was what we call a logistician. So if you need toilet paper, you need water, you need gas, your car broke down, your vehicle broke down, his job is to order all the supplies and equipment that we need and get them to us. He did that for a few years and decided it was fun, but he wanted to do something else in the Army. So remember I talked about you can change jobs in the Army? He became what we call a public affairs officer. So if you're watching the news or your parents are watching the news and you see the person who's telling you the news story, his job is to help that person or to be that person. If the general's giving a speech, a really important speech, his job is to help write that speech so that it can be written correctly. Or you have a school newspaper, maybe in middle school. His job is to help write the newspaper so that the information's getting out there. Right now he lives in Egypt. So he just did a couple weeks visiting the pyramids and what else is out there? All the pyramids and the sphinxes and everything. So pretty cool thing. But like I said, we like to have fun. So there's a couple of my friends down there. We've just been out in the field, out doing training. We were really smelly. We just come out, we were fooling around. We probably went to Taco Bell after that and scared everybody out because it was so smelly. So I did that chemical thing for a while. Decided I wanted to change my job too. So I became a civil affairs officer. I'll go in a little more detail later on about what a civil affairs officer is, but to become a civil affairs officer, I had to learn a language. I had to learn about a region of the world. So my language is Russian. My region is Europe. So they taught me how to speak it. I also had to learn how to jump out of airplanes. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So right here, you'll see my parachute on my back. It's pretty heavy. There's another parachute right in front of me, just in case the back parachute doesn't work. That's why my hands are over it, because you don't want to pull your ripcord too soon. There we are jumping out of the airplanes in that back corner. You can see it, little tiny spot back there. And here we are coming in because you gotta, come in, clean everything up. Just like at the end of the day when the teacher tells you to clean up your stuff, we also had to clean up our stuff, equipment, because you want to be able to reuse your equipment. You never leave your equipment dirty. So we shake out our chutes because we land in trees, we land in mud, we land everywhere we possibly can land, and you always have that stuff in your parachute. So you got to get all that out so they can be reused again. Down there's the airplane that I'm getting ready to jump out of. We're walking out to it, getting ready to climb up on it. And over here you're going to see some gentlemen in a different color uniform. Those are German officers. So at Fort Liberty down in North Carolina, where we lived for about 10 years before we came to Kentucky, we would jump out of airplanes with militaries from other parts of the world. So Brazil, Canada, Germany, England. They would all come to Fort Liberty and we'd all get to jump together. But a really cool thing about it was when they would bring their airplanes with them, we would get special wings. So right here, this tells somebody that I jumped out of an airplane with a German soldier. So it's kind of a cool thing. In the military, we like our ribbons, we like our medals, we like shiny things. It's fun. So as part of my job when I transferred over, I learned how to not only jump out of airplanes, I also got to travel some pretty neat parts of the world. So I wasn't always in war. I wasn't always in what we call combat. I traveled to different parts of Europe. I worked with other militaries. I worked with military from Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is right here. I was working with our military because I do disaster response. So if Kentucky has a flood, there are people who are specially trained to help people, right? Our firefighters, our police, everybody, they know what to do. And a lot of times those people don't have the training, they don't have the equipment. So my job is to help put them together with other people. So over there you can see some of the flooding. It destroyed some schools. So kids didn't have a school to go to. So our job was to figure out, where did those kids go? Did they go live with aunts and uncles? Did they go live in a different country? Where were they? And did they need school supplies? So imagine there was a flood somewhere here and Lincoln Trail had to start coming here to school. Can you imagine how busy that would be in here and crowded? There wouldn't be enough books, there wouldn't be enough probably school supplies and everything. So my job is to help bring in school supplies. Make sure you guys have enough pencils, make sure everybody's got a book, everybody's got a place to sit. So that was kind of my job. So over here we're at one of the schools and we're visiting.